hey, I just filmed a ton of videos. I've been doing this batch filming thing, which is saving my life right now. But I just filmed a bunch of videos and thought that before I close up shop on the filming, I should check in about what I've read so far. Some great stuff. This was my first finished read of the month. This is Sister Wife, a memoir of faith, family, and finding freedom by Christine Brown Woolley. And she is a former sister wife from the show Sister Wives. Well, there is a show about her life called Sister Wives. She was a member of the Brown family, and she was the third of 4 wives. And I think they have 18 children, and Kody Brown was the man, the husband in that whole thing. And this is her story. So she is telling her story, how she knows it, how she lived it. And if you don't watch Sister Wives, I highly recommend it, actually. Go back to the very beginning. It's a very, very interesting show. It is reality TV, but it's, especially those early years, it's very documentary-esque and very, very socially interesting. What you don't fully comprehend but see glimpses of in the show is just how dysfunctional these relationships are. Not the family necessarily, but the individual relationships between Kody and his wives, and the wives between each other. She's very honest about the good times and the hard times and her contributions, both positive and negative, to the family and their interactions with each other. But what this is really about is her finding herself, finding her voice, finding her way through what she calls, and what I would agree with, but this is her word, a cult. So she feels like she's finding her way out of a cult. And as she becomes clearer on who she is and what she deserves out of a relationship and a family and life in general, and the things that are available to her beyond the boundaries of the way that she was raised, which she says she loves the way that she was raised. So much about it is so good and positive. When it came to the point where she wanted her children to be able to make their own choices about who they were and who they were going to be and how they were going to live, she realized more and more the limitations that their belief system and their life put on them. Additionally, she's living in a completely loveless marriage and being treated really poorly, and starting to realize that she's been treated very poorly, and she's put up with an awful lot for decades, and realizing that actually she is more valuable than she has allowed herself to believe, and that she is deserving of love, and that she is capable of receiving love. And she decides that although she doesn't know what's out there, she needs to leave the situation she is in because it is not going to change. She has always believed she could change it, but then she comes to a realization that she cannot. And this is the story of her getting to the point where she can leave that situation, and the unfolding of the beauty that happens as she becomes more and more herself and teaches others how to treat her better. It's a really great book. She has a really conversational writing style. You really feel her voice through the whole thing. It is not a tell-all or anything like that. She paints a very balanced picture of every member of the family that she speaks about. She doesn't speak about every member of the family, and she is very conscious of not telling other people's stories. If other people are mentioned, it is only in relation to her. She's telling her story. And of course, her story involves other people, but she is not ever telling somebody else's story. I just really liked it. I liked it a lot. I think it's a classy book. I think it's a classy memoir. It's very well told. It's very empowering and very well written. Highly recommend this. This is great. The next thing I finished was a book I don't have a copy of, as I listened to the audio. That was Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. Now, Chuck, I have said so many times that Chuck Wendig knows how to write an ending that I love for a horror novel, and that most horror novelists cannot end a story to save their lives. And I have to eat my words with this one because I hate the ending of this book. And I was wondering, it was so long, and I was wondering, like, how are we ever going to wrap this up in a satisfying way? And he didn't wrap it up in a satisfying way for me. I would love to know, if you've read this book, how you feel about the ending, but I just didn't like it. What saved it for me, the whole experience for me though, why I'm walking away from it going, okay, this actually is redeemable for me, because the ending is so important, is that there is an author's note at the end about getting lost, and it keeps quoting Rebecca Solnit, and it's just this very interesting exploration of the ideas and the events that kind of led to the concept of this horror novel being written in the first place. The novel itself, I mean, the story itself until you get to the end is excellent. It's about friendship and community and trauma, and it's a nightmare. Like, you read it and it feels like you are reading someone's nightmare. Basic premise is that, sorry, my nose itches. Basic premise is that there is this group of friends, and they all meet when they're in high school in the 80s or the 90s to go camping in the woods. They have their own like internal conflicts and things, their own individual struggles and their own like communal struggles. And all of those things are playing in. We keep getting flashbacks that tell us the story of them when they were young, because when the story starts, we meet them as adults. And one of them has cancer, and he's called them to all come together to support a promise that they made to each other, an obligation that they made to each other. So we keep getting flashbacks for a lot of the beginning of the story to kind of set the scene for why they're coming together and why they are all kind of the way they are as adults. During this camping trip, when they were kids, they come across a staircase in the woods. It starts nowhere and leads nowhere. And because of some conflicts that happen, and because of some impaired cognizance due to some drug usage, at one point, one of them decides, you know, he's gonna climb the stairs. Climbs the stairs and he disappears. And the rest of the kids are teens, are there, and they have to decide, what will they tell people, because he's gone now, and they're not going to go up the stairs. They're not going up the stairs. He's gone now, and what can they tell people? They feel that they will be blamed and held accountable for his disappearance. So they make up a story, and in the making up of that story, they kind of make a pact with each other. And when they grow up, and this guy, you know, it messes them all up. Of course, this messes them all up. When they grow up and this guy has cancer and calls them all back together to honor the pact, they're actually going into the woods to see if they can find the staircase again, so that they can try and go find their friend who disappeared. They find the staircase, they climb the staircase, and what unfolds is a horrific series of nightmares with a backstory, a historical backstory. But it's really, really well done. Chuck Wendig tells a great, gruesome story. It's very psychological. There's some body horror stuff, if that's not your thing. It's not extreme. That's not my thing at all. It was a little gross for me, but not too gross. Mostly, though, it's a very interesting study of friendship and grief and trauma, and the ending stinks. That is all I will say about that. I do suggest you read it if you enjoy horror. If you don't enjoy horror, don't go anywhere near it. It is downright scary, eerie, and disturbing. Disturbing is the word. It's a very disturbing book. Yeah, not sorry I read it. definitely, if you read it, let me know how you feel about the ending. And if you don't like the ending, read the author's note, because it'll help a little bit. It'll help a little bit. It doesn't help the ending of the novel, but it softens the blow. That is all I will say about that. Maybe blow is the wrong word. Thud. It softens the thud. I have also read, in preparation for teaching, Bloodwater Paint and Junie. So this is what I am reading currently with my 9th graders, and in a week or two we're going to start this with my 10th graders. And I don't want to say too much about them because I need to keep things fresh in my mind and unrestricted, but I will say that the basic premise of this is that there is extensive records, there is extensive records of a trial that happened as a result of SA. I'll use the terms. I don't think that I get flagged for anything ever, but there will come a time, there will come a day, so I'll use the term. I think I'm just too small. Like, the people who watch me know me and are not offended by the use of real words, but I will go ahead and use the terminology as needed. So SA. It takes place in Italy in the 1600s. There is a young girl whose father is a pretty successful painter, and he has several sons and a daughter, and he is teaching them all to paint, and among them, his daughter is the best of them. When she's 16, she's painting pictures that are being commissioned. He's stealing her work and writing his own name on them. She's good. She's really good. Her name is Artemisia Gentileschi. Probably butchering that name, but that is her name. And you may have heard of her. She becomes a very famous painter in her own right, but she is painting in the style of Caravaggio. She is really very, very Baroque in her approach to biblical stories and to the telling of her own life stories through her art. She's always painting herself into her pieces. And she's really good. She's really, really good. Father kind of resents it because she's a girl, and what value are they? One of his apprentices, an older married man, attacks her. There's a lot of proof that he was helped in setting up the situation so that he could get her alone, so that he could attack her. And remember that SA is always about power. It's always about power. At the time, the punishment, she tells her father wants to hold him accountable. At the time, the way to hold him accountable, by the way, he doesn't want to hold him accountable because he feels for his daughter. It's because he is upset because now she will be worthless on the marriage market. Happy times. At the time, the law in Italy said that the attacker, his punishment, because it was always assumed it was a he and a she, with the attacker being the he, that he would marry his victim. That was the punishment. Just let that simmer for a minute. This is why I don't want to talk about it too much. Because I need to teach it not like this. But that was the punishment. And so for a long time, he promises that he will. But the problem is that about 15 years earlier, he had attacked another woman and had been forced to marry her. So he already has a wife. And so he can't marry her. They take him to court because they're like, well, then you're going to pay money, right, for her upkeep, because now I have to keep her because nobody's going to marry her, obviously. And so they take him to court. And the entire trial is very well documented. At the time they did this thing where the defendant was had their thumbs put in a pressing machine so that as they gave their defense. And why is she the defendant? Because she has to prove that she was attacked. But the defense has her, or their, because it's not always a her, but the defense has their thumbs in this screw thing. And So she's in great pain as it's bearing down on her. And this was so that they would feel uncomfortable and only be telling the truth, because they would want to get through their statement quickly and accurately, so that there would be few questions asked, because they were so clear and they didn't have time or ease or comfort to make up a lie. So she's got her thumb in these stalks, these pressing stalks, and she looks at her attacker who's in the room as she's giving her statement, and she says something to the effect of, is this the only ring that you could give me? That's like recorded. Like, she really said that. That's not made up by this author. She really said something to that effect in the moment, in the pain, in the anger. She's a boss. She's a boss. This is a novel told in verse, and it is so well written. It is so good. My ninth graders are going to get like a third. They're going to understand about a third of what's going on. They're going to get the story, but the poetry itself is staggeringly beautiful and powerful. Powerful. It's very well done, this book. And it is basically that story. Now, let me tell you that she painted herself as an adult. She paints herself as Saint Catherine, who is actually Hypatia of Greece. And Saint Catherine she was a pagan, but she's been romanticized and claimed by so many groups of people, feminists, pagans, Christians. She's not really a saint, but she is known as Saint Catherine. She was killed by a group of Christians. She was run over with a wagon. And so she paints herself, Artemisia paints herself as Saint Catherine with the crown on, holding a broken wheel, and looking very triumphant because, she's overcome, the things that were meant to crush her. She's still there. She's still there. She was not crushed. And just like Hypatia / Saint Catherine, claimed by everybody under the sun as theirs, even the people who ultimately killed her. But Artemisia paints herself a self-portrait of herself in this way. And that self-portrait is hanging in the National Gallery in the British National Portrait Gallery. Only 21 women in 201 years of its existence have been represented in the National Portrait Gallery. Only 21 women's paintings. Have you ever been to the National Portrait Gallery in London? 21 women in 201 years. And Artemisia is one of them. She does all right for herself. She gets married. She has 5 children. Only one survives. But she is never owned. She's never owned by a commission. She's never owned by a benefactor. She's never owned by a court. She paints for herself and she sells her paintings. She will take commissions. Like if somebody comes to her and says, please paint us a picture of this biblical scene, or paint a picture of me, a portrait of me. If she wants to do it, she'll do it, right? But she doesn't have to. She's also good friends with, operettists, a female operettist who writes the very first opera by a woman. She's a mover and a shaker. She does her thing. She survives. This event does not define her. And that's very clear in this book. Really, really enjoyed learning about her, obviously. Really enjoy this poetry. So good. Highly recommend. The other book that I finished to teach that I can't talk about very much is Junie by Erin Crosby Eckstein. This is about a young woman who is a slave. She's born into slavery, and on the plantation that she's been raised on, she was raised kind of as the companion of the white daughter of the plantation owner. The plantation owner is a drunk, and he's a schmoozer, and he's always gone. And when he's not there, things feel lighter and better for the white family, for his family. And when he is there, things are a bit of a mess. The daughter loves him, but he's like indulgent. The mother is cruel, awful woman. Wants everything her way or the highway, and she makes it very clear that her daughter is pretty much just as much a slave as the slaves that they own, because they are going to sell their daughter to save their plantation. They're going to make her marry a man who is going to bring them money to save their plantation. And all of this is throwing her friends, her slave friends' life into upheaval. Now, she is very much a slave, but it is when she is with the white girl, the lines can be dangerously blurred. Because the girl loves to read and she wants a companion to talk about books with, and she wants someone to read to her, she has taught Junie how to read. And so they talk about poets and writers. They talk about Charlotte Bronte and Jane Eyre and Emily Dickinson. And they just talk about a lot of books in here because the girls are reading those books, talking about those books, and comparing their own aspects of their own lives to those books. So she knows how to read and she knows how to write, but nobody's supposed to know that. When it becomes clear to her very early on, all this happens very early on in the book. So when it becomes clear to her, when she understands that her mistress is going to be married, and that means that she will have to leave her family and move to a new plantation with her mistress, and her mistress will be in charge, and she will no longer be just her companion, and that everything will change. She will lose her family, she will lose her place, she will lose her privileges. And also, she is concerned for her mistress, for her friend, because she has to marry someone that she does not know or love in order to save a plantation that she doesn't necessarily believe in. And, you know, she has no choice either. There's no choice being given to these women. So she's concerned for herself and for her friend, but more for herself. She thinks, if I can find the money to save the plantation in another way, then maybe none of this has to happen. If we can find the money in another way, maybe all this will stop. And she has a sister who died earlier, before the book. And she remembers that sister wearing a gold necklace. Now, there's more to this story, but she remembers that sister wearing a gold necklace, and that gold necklace upon her death was dropped into a jar that holds her belongings, that sits on her grave in the slave cemetery. And she is going to go and she's going to take that necklace in the hope that she can sell it and get these people money so that nothing has to change. And that's going to disturb her sister's ghost. I'm sure you can anticipate where some of these things are going and how terribly wrong things can get. They are reading this. Why would I make 10th graders read this? A, it's a really great story. But B, it's for a class called Amex, American Experience, which is a co-taught class with a history teacher and a English teacher, partner teachers, the history teacher, and it's the American Experience. So it is from the country, like right after from the founding of the country, hopefully to the Cold War. We'll see how far we can get. But a big chunk of it is the Civil War. So I'll be teaching that in a couple of weeks as we start our Civil War unit. And that's what I've read so far. I'm reading a couple of other things right now. The name of the game in September seems to be starting things. I've started 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books. And I'm not making much progress in any of them. The one that I do keep coming back to right now, that I am loving, but that I'm just so tired right now because teaching is taking so much out of me and there's so much life happening. But the one that I do keep wanting to read that I am in the middle of right now is T. Kingfisher's, I don't even know what it's called, but the one about the poisoner, the one about the one who knows how, the Snow White retelling. What is it called? Your guess is as good as mine, but that'll probably be the next one that I talk about. That is what I have read so far. It is the 11th, 10th, 12th? I don't know. It's a day. It's a day in September. And that's where I am. I was actually had a fever for the last couple of days, so I actually didn't go into work. We don't go in with fevers. And I really thought that I would get a lot done, but I really just slept. So I kind of feel like I lost 2 days. But here we are. It's the 12th. No, it's the 13th. It's the 13th. That is the day it is. Yeah. It's a lot going on. There's going to be a lot of B-roll because there's a lot going on. Lots of fun things. And a lot of work and a lot of happiness, but I'm so tired. And all I've done for the last couple of days is sleep, and I'm still so tired. And actually, I think you can see that I'm a little feverish right now. There's fever on my cheeks. Yeah. We're going to do it. We're going to make it through. I'll check in with you again real soon. Hi. As per usual, I've just got done filming something else. So here I am to do a check-in for the reading vlog, for the September reading wrap-up. Okay, first I will say that I finished my reread of Binti 1, 2, and 3, the trilogy of novellas, and then the rest of this Binti book is a new story of Binti, which I haven't read yet, and I'm not going to read it in September. Really enjoyed this, read it for Books Love Everyone, so I'll be talking about it and this one in more detail in the wrap-up video that I put out about that. Okay, I also read, stack over here. I also read and loved Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. This I didn't love as much as A Sorceress Comes to Call, which was my very first T. Kingfisher ever. This is my second. I really, really loved A Sorceress Comes to Call. And this one I also really enjoyed, but I don't think I enjoy Snow White retellings all that much. What's great about this one is that you have a kind of heavy-set, middle-aged female character who's a capable woman, really like knows her stuff, which is poison and antidotes to poison. And she gets to have the adventure and the romance and the final good word. Like, she gets all the good stuff in this book. And you don't often see that in fairy tale retellings, or even fiction today. So it was great to see like a normal everyday human woman just have this amazing story unfold for her. It is not, I mean, it is definitely a retelling of or a nod to Snow White, if you can't tell by the apple here. But the main character is a woman who is, because of the death of her brother in her younger life, she has become an expert in poisons, particularly in antidotes to poisons. And so she is asked by the king to come and find out what is making his daughter Snow so sick. There's magic mirrors and apples and witches and all kinds of things involved in this. But mainly it's the story of our apothecary. I don't know if you could call her an apothecary, but I consider her an apothecary. Our antidotist's story. That's mainly her story. So really fun to read. I have no complaints about it. It just didn't strike me as deeply as A Sorceress Comes to Call. The next one I read was actually a reread. So I read this earlier in the year as an ARC, but it is such a perfect time of year to be reading this. And I just felt like I wanted to. This is Sarah Vogel's second book in this series. I don't know what this series is called. Maybe it doesn't have a name. The first book is Old Flames and New Fortunes, which I also read an ARC of and purchased the copy, the physical copy of, and then reread last year. And then I did that this year too. I got the ARC of this super fun book, purchased the physical copy, and then really wanted to reread it right now. And you can tell it's definitely set. It's definitely coded for autumn. And so this is super fun. I love this series, love these books. It's about a small town. What's the name of that small town? Moonville. It's about Moonville, Ohio, where magical things happen all the time. It's kind of like, hey Google, turn the timer off. Sorry about that. I have a pecan pie in the oven. Just a Marie Callender's. This is nothing fancy that I did. It is a little bit like Practical Magic in that magic is just part of the story. And so you have this group of sisters who are all endowed with some kind of a magical ability. And one of them, the one in this one, what's her name? Zelda Tempest, doesn't believe in any of it. She has erased from her mind memories of herself ever having any kind of magical capability. She becomes an author. Circumstances send her back to Moonville, Ohio after she has left it, and things start to occur to her. She starts to see things in a different way, to understand things, to remember things, and realizes, oh, she actually does have some magical gifts. For example, in the first book, these aren't just like your run-of-the-mill magical gifts. In the first book, the protagonist in Old Flames and New Fortunes, her magical gift is understanding how to create energy and spells using particular kinds of flowers and grouping kinds of flowers. So she arranges bouquets. That's her gift, arranging bouquets. So Zelda, is going to have a very particular kind of gift. This is also a super fun and funny romance, and it is about learning to see yourself in a positive way, and it is about learning to understand what you have to offer the world, and it is about learning how to accept love. So the love interest in this really has to kind of, not in a weird, creepy, non-consensual way, but he really has to like track her down in order to get her to accept that he loves her. And so this is a super fun book. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed my reread. I've read it twice this year. It's nothing heavy, but it's just really, it's a cute, fun, fall romance. Then I also read this on my commute. So I listened to this on Libby. I don't have it. It's Ina Garten's memoir. I think it's called Be Ready When the Miracles Happen, something like that. And you'll see it. The title is here for you. And I really enjoyed this. Again, I listened to this on my commute, so walking places, and never really got like a huge long burst with it, just always in these tiny little increments. And it suited that really well. She's giving you memories from her childhood to her present day about how she became the woman that she is, how she got where she is. And it's just a really dear book. I mean, it's a collection of someone's memories. And me knowing next to nothing about this woman and reading this on the recommendation of a friend, found myself highly engaged, highly intrigued, highly entertained, and I didn't have any personal reason to be. And so that tells me that it's actually just this really, really great writing, and that she is a really great storyteller. I never asked myself, why am I listening to this? Why am I here? It was always, ooh, I get to hear more from Ina Garten. And yeah, I had heard the term Barefoot Contessa. I didn't really know what that meant. I knew that she was involved in cooking, that she maybe had a cooking show, that she had some cookbooks. She was not on my radar. She was not on my radar. And now she is. Definitely when I do my next Better World books order, I'm going to see if I can slide in one or two of her cookbooks. I like her approach to making a home, to creating community, to thinking about food. I like her kind of really simple, comfortable, basic approach. And yeah, I think I'm going to really enjoy her cookbooks. I might even try to find her show. I don't know if it's available to watch anywhere or even if it's still on. Like, I know nothing, people. I know that, she grew up in the 50s and had a very stern father and all of those things, but what does she do now? I don't know. So I'll try to find that out, but I really enjoyed it. If you are a fan of really good storytelling, I suggest you listen to it. Next, I read my first Rachel Harrison, Play Nice. I'm going to get the pie out of the oven, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about this because, oh my goodness, I have so many thoughts. Okay, that pie smells so good. It's gonna be for some friends who are coming over tonight, just to talk about books. You have friends come over just to talk about books, right? So that's over there. And maybe I'll insert a photo of it here. Again, I didn't make it. It's just Marine Calendars. It's frozen, but it smells so good. Rachel Harrison, Play Nice. Home is where the horror is. This was my first Rachel Harrison. It will not be my last. I don't know that I want to go back and read all of her backlist because this is the first Rachel Harrison that has really intrigued me, the first one I wanted to pick up. And I'm so glad I did. When I first started reading this, I was thinking, okay, this is going to end up being a thriller, not a horror. This is going to be some kind of domestic violence situation. Everything's going to be explained away. No, my friends. No. This is horror. This is horror. And it's scary. And I loved it. This is about three sisters who, when they were young, went to go live with their mother after a divorce. And the mother bought this, I don't know why it's purple on here. It's a big deal in the book that it's a red house, a blood red house. And down a long dirt drive, kind of secluded. There are neighbors, but it's in like a cove kind of. And there's just something about it, but they're going to make it their own. They're going to move into it. The mom's going to create a safe environment. Not that it was an abusive environment, but she felt mistreated. I won't tell you why they get divorced. But she's going to create like a good place to raise her children. her daughters, and things start happening. The mother becomes convinced that the home is also the home of a demon, and that demon is controlling things. She turns to alcohol, so she becomes an alcoholic. And cut to the present day where the daughters are grown up. The mom passes away, and she leaves the house that nobody knows that she still has. She leaves the house to the youngest daughter, and the story unfolds from there. The youngest daughter is going to go. She's going to fix up the house so that she can resell it and make a profit off of it and have it leave their family. Nobody believes that the house was demon possessed. Not really. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but they don't really latch on to that. All of them are not well-adjusted adults in different ways, and they're going to have to all come together at one point. This book was so great, so creepy, so weird, so hopeful, so funny, and horror. It is not a thriller that turns to domestic violence. There is domestic violence in this, but there's horror. Like trigger warnings for creepy stuff. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. You know I love horror, so loved that. I followed it up with this one, For a Lifetime by Gabrielle Meyer. This is the third book in the For a Lifetime? Timeless, sorry, it's called For a Lifetime. It's the third book in the Timeless series about people, so far, all girls, people who, no, it's not all girls actually. All the protagonists are girls, but it's not only girls who can time travel. But this is about people who have the ability to time travel in a very unique way. I've read the first and second book in this series this year. I loved the first book. In fact, it is back there on that gigantic stack that you cannot even see the top of favorite reads of the year so far. And it's on that stack. The second book I absolutely was so bored by. I was so not into it. And I thought, oh no, it's just a one-hit wonder. But everybody kept talking about how good the third book was. So I got it, and I kept putting it on TBRs until finally I just stopped putting it on TBRs because I wasn't motivated to read it at all because the second book bored me so much. And for whatever reason, I decided suddenly on a whim to pick it up. And I don't know if I put it on this TBR. I think I put it on this, back on this TBR actually. And I picked it up and read it in one afternoon. I didn't mean to do that, but I was very invested and I couldn't stop. I loved it so much. This one is about two sisters, twins, and they live together in the 1640s during the Salem witch trials, and they lived together during the 1912s. And this has to do with the first female flight. It has to do with everything you know about the Salem witch trials. And it has that kind of added flair because there's twins. And are they gonna make the same decisions? Are they gonna stay in the same places? If you're not familiar with how time travel works in this, it's really unique. They tend to live in two different lives. Sometimes that's different, but they tend to live in two different lives, two different places, two different bodies, same person. They go to sleep each night, and when they wake up, they are in their opposite place. So if they're in 1640 and they go to sleep, they wake up in 1912. In 1912, they go to sleep, they wake up in 1640. And it goes back and forth like that until they either die or they turn 18. And when they turn 18, they have to make a decision of where they're going to wake up. If they go to sleep in 1640 and they decide to wake up in 1912, their 1640 body will pass away that night. Everyone they know in that lifetime will mourn them, and they will not be able to return. If they decide to go to sleep that night and wake up like in 1640 and they wake up in 1640, then their 1912 body passes away and everybody there mourns them, and yeah, they exist simultaneously. And this one gets really fun because of the way that the Easter eggs are laid. Like the travelers are starting to get connected in interesting ways through time, which I'm not exactly sure my brain can wrap itself around completely, but I'm there for the ride. Loved this, really, really loved this. It set me up for wanting so much to read the 4th book. I think the 6th book is coming out in November, so I'm not going to try and be there for that release, but I am going to continue reading this series, probably finish it up next year or get to the point where the most recent book, I will finish reading the most recent book next year. I do think it lends itself really well to being read in these fall and winter months. They're very cozy in a lot of ways, although they do deal with some pretty heavy subject matter. But they are, for those of you who care about it, they are clean. There is some Christian content in it, but it's not preachy in any way, which I don't like in my Christian fiction. If you've watched my videos at all, this year and a little bit of last year, I really started dipping my toe back into Christian fiction thanks to authors that I've recently discovered over the past few years, like Laura France, Gabrielle Meyer, authors who I feel write really, really well. I grew up reading Christian fiction and almost exclusively Christian fiction and classics, and really understood even then that I was not reading great literature. I was not even reading mediocre literature some of the time. I feel like Christian literature, it gets extremely formulaic, and the quality of storytelling is often not great, and they often rely so much on just straight rhetoric. They so much just preach at you from the page rather than telling a really, really compelling story that makes you come to your own conclusions and think through religious topics. Because you're seeing them unfold in an empathetic way on the page, which everything says is the best way to learn. The best way to learn is story. And yeah. So I had stepped away from it just because the quality of literature was so poor. And recently I've come back to it a little bit, very carefully come back to it. I'll try a lot of authors, and sometimes they just really don't work. And I'm going to be pretty blunt about that. I'm sorry, this is just a sermon in the guise of fiction. That's not fiction. That's not what I'm looking for. And sometimes I'm going to tell you this was really bad writing. And a lot of the time I'm going to tell you this was okay, not great. But for this series, the 1st and 3rd book, I'm going to say they're good. They're really good. Light, absolutely light, but really good. I think that is it. I will probably be doing one more check-in before this video goes out. We're getting very close to the end of the month, and it's almost Victober time. Those Victober books they are calling my name like a ghostly voice out on the moors. I can hear them now. Jenna. I've got Anthony Trollope books knocking on the door, on the window, asking to be let in. If you get that reference, let me know. Anyway, I am gonna be back for one more check-in, and it won't be any time for you. You'll see some fun B-roll, and there I'll be again.